Welcome back, guys. Quivs here. Quivs does stuff. Once again, been a little period since I've recorded something, and today we're going to be jumping into Astroneer. This came out a while ago. It was in early access on Steam for some time, and got some pretty glowing reviews, so I gave it a go in its late early access, and was around for its launch. It's a very good game, very simple. Good for kids, I would say, as well. Sort of anyone. It does have a slight reflex, requires a little bit of reflexes, but anyone from sort of, 10 up, depending on their game abilities. I'm a mouse and keyboard player. I don't even know if this can be done with a controller, so we won't talk about that. But, so long as you've basically got your WASD down and can reach sort of control and shift, you can pretty much do everything in this game. It's not very hard. There's not much in the way of combat. What there is very simple. There's no permadeath, and it continuously feels quite rewarding. It's also quite pretty. Graphically, I really like it. But there was a new update last night, the automation update. I'm going to be starting a new game, so I don't know how far we're going to get in during the course of this video. We may or may not see much of the new automation updates, but I thought I'd do a video on it because I like it. I play it a lot. It's on my list of games that I keep coming back to. So I think other people should play it, and hopefully this gives you some idea of whether it's your kind of game or not, and whether you want to give it a go. So we're going to start a whole new game, though. Now, I have played it a bit, so I've unlocked a few things. So I've got this cool purple suit with the shiny mirror finish, visor, and so on and so forth. But when you first start, you'll be locked into a smaller selection with a smaller selection of colors. Some of these are purchases that you can make. The game does have microtransactions, but they are all cosmetic, so that's not so bad. It's nothing to really worry about too much because, yeah, it's just, if you want your character to look cool, then you can spend a bit of money. If you just want to play the game, you can just play the game, and there's no pay to win here at all. So you start a new game. You start off in this little sort of escape pod style thing, and you go down to the first planet, which is called Sylvan. It's not hugely important what the planet's called, but yeah, there are a bunch of planets, and there's a bunch of things you can do on each planet. So this is sort of how the game starts. You land. It's not your typical marooned in space sort of thing. It's more of a purpose, head down to the planet and advance until you can leave the planet again kind of thing. Press F to exit. This is sort of your little starting base and the starting landing pad. Now, a lot of the things in this game I'm going to be going through a bit quickly because I know the game very well. So one of the first things you want to do every time you start a new game is initialize your cargo drop. This just gives you your basic starting cargo things that you need. You're going to want to get your oxygenator. So these boxes, they contain things and they can be unpacked. So let's unpack it on the ground. This is the oxygenator. It provides oxygen. Now this shelter will provide oxygen normally, but it will not provide oxygen to tethers. If it is the first time you've played the game, go through the tutorial. Tutorial will show you everything. What I show you here will be more a somewhat veteran's view of how the game is played. These are little tables. Most of the machines that you use in the game will have to actually be placed on a table. They don't work without them, and they need to be connected to electricity. Your shelter, basic shelter, provides a small amount of basic electricity, but you'll find and produce electricity via different means later. So for example, you can see these swirly wind patterns currently. So wind power is one of the things you'll want to do, want to develop and be able to utilize. Another big part of the game is research, which you do by finding things like research samples. And you just hold F, scan it, and look, I got 19 bytes. That's research bytes. You need a lot of them to really accomplish anything good. Another major mechanic is the power mechanic and the oxygen mechanic. So you need power to do anything, well, not anything, but most things that are worth doing, and you need oxygen to survive. Without oxygen, you die. So there, that was my warning for halfway through the oxygen. So on the back of your suit, the thing that you spend most of the time looking at is your backpack. And this here, this blue bar that's filling up now from the black, that's your oxygen meter. These yellow bars, that's your power meter. Now, what do you use power for? Mostly, you use it for terraforming. And that is, when you press E, you bring out your terraforming tool, and you can click to deform the terrain. Right, these are one of the first enemies. It's actually surprising to see these guys here. They normally are up in the mountains. So this is how combat in most of the game works. You dig things up, and that's how you beat it. So now I've beaten it. Can't remember what these guys are called, but here's a seed. So what were they called? They are called bounce vine. And you can plant these bounce vine seeds, and they drop research samples when they're killed as well. So spend a little time grabbing that. I'm going to have to go back quickly because I'm running out of oxygen. So right there was, and here, is one of the first simplest resources in the game called compound. Possibly the second, because this is the first resource called organic. Organic comes from anything organic. So you see how there's all these plants here? If I was to deform this terrain, I start gathering all these plants, and if you watch the very back of my terrain tool, as I gather more, it sort of fills up until it's a full stack, and then it gives you the helpful little chime notification to let you know you've gathered a full resource, and you can then take it off your backpack. Those organics aren't the most useful tool, resource in the game. It's not bad, but yeah, you'll find more useful things later. Now I'm going to go over here because this was a nice... See, that's already grown. So we'll kill it again because we don't need it. So I'm going to gather some compound. You see there's the pings letting me know I've gathered compound. Now I want quite a lot of compound. It's one of the early game resources. It's essential for making almost everything in the early game. The second major resource that you're going to want in the early game is resin, and hopefully we'll be able to find some of that soon, and I'll show you what that looks like. Right, so we'll head back to base. So yeah, this game is somewhat of a survival game in that you have to manage your oxygen. Oxygen is important. Without it, you die. Your character suffocates. When your bar empties, the first thing it does is it says you're suffocating. For a few more seconds, you can still move at a normal rate. After a few seconds of suffocating, your character starts to slow down, and after a few more seconds, you collapse. You then respawn in your shelter, and there's a marker, just like this marker here, that shows you where my home base is. That will show you where your body is, and you can go and collect the stuff that you had on your backpack. Now this here is the mini constructor, mini printer, and there's a bunch of things that you can print from your backpack. They're all selectable here by pressing left and right. And one of the first things you're going to want, and really important, and one of the reasons why the oxygenator that we put in the shelter is so important, is that on the cable here that are connected, so you do have to connect cables to things, otherwise they don't receive power. You'll see there's also a blue line right on the edge. That means it's also transferring oxygen, which means oxygen, see how I'm tethered via this little line to the table? And then if I move far enough away, I'll be tethered to the shelter. That means it can transfer oxygen to me. Now, without the oxygenator, so let's take the oxygenator out real quick. You see there's no blue line, and I can't be tethered to the table because the table cannot provide oxygen, because there's nothing providing oxygen to the table. But with an oxygenator in the slot, you can provide it oxygen via cables, and then via this, and then via tethers. So let's move. See, now I've broken it. I've gone too far. The tether can't move that far. But I have made these items up here, which is a tether bundle. These are little tethers, And with the press of a button, I can drop a new tether. That button in this case is T. I'm sure there's another button as well, but I can't remember what it is. And yeah, so you can extend the range that you can provide oxygen to your player. You can pick these up and move them around as well. And you can put them back on your tether bundle. You can do that manually by like picking them up, and it's possible. It's difficult, but it's possible. Yeah, you can add them to your tether bundle thusly. Somehow. No, okay, you can't. But anyway, or you can just, while holding it, press F, and it will automatically go to where you need it to go. Now, I have separated this out, which makes it weird, so we'll have to do that. There we go. Okay. Right, now, the next resource we need is over here. This is resin. These yellow tube-like looking things sticking out of the ground kind of look a bit like pasta. Resin is essentially like plastic. It is used to make things that are large in construction. I guess the game's logic is that it makes up all the bodies of things. Like if you need to make a housing for something, you'd make it out of plastic in this semi-futuristic, weird space world. So we'll grab a lot of resin, because you need a lot of resin. And we'll drop that all off at base, because I don't need it taking up slots. I'm going to want those slots. Again, right at the very beginning of the game, there's a few things you should do. So one of the first things I like to do is make myself 2 canisters. Some people might make 1, I prefer 2. And I'll show you what canisters do in a moment. So you see, making things used up my power, but then I recharge because I'm tethered to the shelter. Now, if I wasn't tethered to the shelter via the blue cable, I wouldn't recharge because I have no power producing things on my backpack. I also like to keep a compound. Now you see, let's show you. Okay, so the resource that's required is always shown here. Now, if you have the right thing selected, you can slot 1 extra resource into this construction slot here, which gives you essentially an extra slot in your backpack. Very useful. Okay, the final major part of how this game works is research. Now that actually comes from this little thing here on your backpack that you can see slides in and out as I put my mouse cursor over it, and you like click on it. It brings up the research menu. So these are all the things that you can research. Blue things are things that you already know. Red or pink, purple, depending on what you're looking at it as, are things that you don't yet know and can research. And it shows you how many bytes, that's research bytes, it's going to cost to do that. So I have 291 bytes now. Now I know that one of the first things I'm going to want, and I always want it, is, no, not that one, this one. Large platform B, costs 500 bytes. Nearly 3/5 of the way there. So I'm going to keep running around and trying to gather more research bytes, just because I really, really want that before I do anything else. Now you can go with smaller tables, but I find that the 500 byte price point is cheap, and the slightly larger table is just worth it. It's the preferred sort of table starting point. What you actually start with is a medium table or a small table B that comes out of the care package that gets dropped from the landing pad. And that's this size table here. Now tables have different slots on them. So you'll see there's these, just like these in your backpack, single slots. There's 2 single slots and there's 1 double slot. Now this item, the starting medium printer and the oxygenator, they both require a double slot. So I can't socket them onto single slots. They won't go there. So, by getting enough research bytes together to learn this table, which is going to take me a little while because I'm going to have to wander around and find more of these bytes hanging around. But these things regrow, so long as you don't deform the terrain underneath them and collapse the plant, they will grow new research samples. As will these little trees. So there's a whole bunch of different biological plants and trees, and there's ones that are more like minerals that continuously grow. They have different rates of growth, and they will provide you with basic research. But that's only basic research. So, I'm running low on oxygen. Is this wise? This may not be wise. I might be showing you what it looks like to die. Alright. You'll also find scattered around this debris stuff. I'm going to grab that power cell. So now I'm suffocating. So it's making weird noises. My character can still run for a little bit, but now he can't. Slower. And you can hear the heart thumping. Am I going to make it back? I might die right on the edge. I did. Okay. But that's it. That's like the full extent of your death. You respawn in the shelter, press F to exit, and everything that I had in my backpack is here. So, we'll grab these, whoops. We'll grab the things I had again. And now it's like that never happened, sort of. Okay. So these are power cells. They are a one-use, well I say one, yeah, I guess you could call them one-use. They're disposable power cells. You make them, I believe, using zinc. They provide power to you or to your machinery, because things like the printer and stuff need power. Things like the oxygenator don't. And you can slot them into single slots, and they will provide power. They've got these little sort of circular bits on the top and bottom. That shows you how much power it has left before this thing's going to be completely used up. Alright, now what else do we have to do? Did we get enough yet? 603. Excellent. So we'll go over here. We'll learn the large platform B. Now I can go into my medium printer and find... See, that's large platform A. But if you look at it, it only has one big quad slot. That's a quad slot. But if I go to platform B, it's got two double slots and a quad slot. And the cost is here. That's only 2 resin, but for 1 more resin, I can add 2 extra slots to it. So that's just, from an efficiency standpoint, I prefer that table. So, oh yes, that is the... So up here, this sort of ghostly hologram, it gives you an indication of what kind of resource you need. If you hover your mouse over it, it shows you that it's resin, and that's what the resin looks like. Now you can slot them in there, or if you have the required ingredients on your backpack, it'll automatically take it from your backpack. Now, when you don't have the required ingredients, the button here is blacked out. When you do, it goes green, and then you flip up the little safety can't press the button by accident thing and press the button, and this 3D printer begins printing using the materials that I provided to it, the large platform B. Excellent. So now that's underway. So we pretty much don't have much to do except wait for that to finish. I think I've glitched the oxygen thing out by dying and then actually falling into oxygen range. It's now playing the sound of a refilling oxygen tank continuously. But oh well, you get that. Alright, so this I wanted to show you before. So there's debris from previous explorations around the place, and sometimes these will have useful stuff on it, but a lot of the time it'll just be debris. So like all this stuff here, it's all just debris. It's not useful at this early point in the game. Later in the game, you will actually be able to gather all this debris and use it as salvage, which you can then trade with... I don't know who you actually trade it with. That's never really... It's not part of the lore. It's not important enough, I guess. But you can trade it for other resources. So rarer resources especially. Some of them can be hard to get. Some of them require you to actually go to other planets. Right, so now, again, everything comes in boxes. Well, almost everything comes in boxes. Large platform, so I can choose where to put it. I'm going to put it there, and then I'm going to hold F to unpack it. Now, it has a front facing. That's where this little arrow is. But that's not hugely important. You can put it wherever you like. If it does have a front facing, items will sort of automatically align to that. But you can freely rotate items on the platforms anyway, so it's not something to really worry about where the front and back is. Right. Now the next thing I'm going to want is a research chamber. So remember I spoke about how important research was? Well, a research chamber is one of the ways of helping that along. Right, so this needs 2 compound and 1 resin. So I put those in there, and you'll see that the power cells, they're completely gone. That's because they were used up during the course of constructing this to speed up the construction. Now, the printer will work so long as there is power. It'll work faster the more power it gets. Let's see now, what else can I do while I wait for these things to be done? I do need a research item, and I haven't found one yet, so let's go see if we can find. Now, research items they're sort of spherical, not exactly spherical, but the vast majority of them are a certain size and shape. And you can't use them to gain bytes by just holding down the button. Pressing F doesn't work on them. They're too big. And there are many types. Most of them are mineral, some of them are organic. You can often find them in amongst the trees, which is why I'm now searching the tree line to see if I can spot one. I haven't yet. Oh, I did spot one in the distance over there, so I know where to go, but I've got to go back to base for some more oxygen. So we get back, we refill our oxygen, we wait for that to fill up. And then I'm going to head over here to this tree, because I saw a tree with a fork in its trunk, and within that fork is the research item. These little weird bulbous blue balls. That's a research item. Now this is too big to fit on your backpack, but you can carry it in your hands, or you can hold it with a mouse pointer. But if you're holding it with a mouse pointer, you can't move very fast. If you're holding it in your hands, you can move a little bit faster. It's still not as fast as your normal run speed, but it's faster than your walk speed. Right, and this is a research item, and we're going to put that in the research chamber once the research chamber is ready. So I'll wait, because that's almost done. We'll just wait for this to finish. Once again, it'll appear as a package. So it constructs it in full size, but then it packages it up for you. Now, packages always take up 1 slot smaller than what they unpack to. So you'll see this package can fit on a 2 slot perfectly. But I can't unpack it except on the ground or on this quad slot. So I want to put it on the quad slot and unpack it. And that is the research chamber. From the research chamber, I can put a big research item. You can actually put small research items in it. You can, I don't think you can research natural resources, but you can put the little ones. Where are the little ones? Let's find a little one and show you that that also works. We won't actually do it because it's a waste, but we'll at least demonstrate. So these little ones, I was just holding F on them to research them, but you can actually just pick them up and carry them around like resources. And you can place these little ones on the research chamber and research them as well. Now it tells you how much research you're going to get, so I'm going to get 60 bytes out of this. Now that's more than I would get if I just held F on it to research it, but it's going to take 5 minutes to get that full 60 bytes. In that time, like, heaps more of these things will actually have grown. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I broke it. Anyway. But one of these, I get 460, but it is going to take minutes to happen. Oh, I've already started it. Okay. That was accidental. And now I can't seem to get out again. Oh, there we go. Right. So holding F, only 19 bytes. That's a third of what I would have got, but it took me a split second to use it, and you know, in the 5 minutes time, I could have gone over to that plant over there that's going to grow one again 3 or 4 times. Alright, now, canisters. So, canisters let you store the terrain, the actual soil. Oh, you can't do it while your backpack's out. That's a shame. But you see there, like, it's now yellow and it's sort of a third. If I keep deforming the terrain here, collecting more and more and more, it's now nearly full. And what that allows you to do is to do things like build terrain up. So by holding the Alt key, you'll see the arrow on my terrain tool actually changes from a down arrow to an up arrow, and I can actually build terrain. You can also hold the Control key, and this is the one that you'll find yourself using the most, and that will actually level the terrain. So it'll, whatever spot you started on, it'll level any terrain around where you click to be at that same level. Good for base building, kind of important. But one of the other things that's really important is you might have seen the holes that have been in the ground that I've been running past continuously. Underground is very important in this game. All the best resources, pretty much like Earth, I assume, like Earth, aren't found on the surface. They're found underground. So one of the best ways to get underground, you can find these convenient holes scattered around the place and use them to descend. But one of the easiest ways is to start yourself a hole, find a sort of decent angle where there's a downwards trajectory, so hold Control and make yourself a little path. Now your terrain manipulator only works out to a certain range. Beyond a certain range it stops working. Now the other thing I'm going to do, make this flat. And because we're going underground here, we're going to get out of range soon, so I'm going to start making a tether line. And I'm going to head down into the bowels of the planet. It's a bit claustrophobic. I'm going to keep dropping tethers every time I disconnect. That way I'll keep a continuous tether line back to the shelter, which will keep me oxygenated. And powered as well, because using this much terrain I will actually run out of power. Now the other thing you might notice is the sort of little blue circle around where I'm deforming the terrain at the moment. That is actually an indication of how full your canisters are. If it's fully blue, your canisters are fully full. And if it's all white, your canisters are fully empty. There are two little white marks that you'll see. Those are like each individual canister. So I have two canisters, so I have two. So you see now it's emptying because now I'm making terrain. I'm not absorbing any terrain with my terrain manipulator. I'm only creating it, so it will continuously drain until such time as I'm again adding rather than removing. Okay, now I forgot to put a few tether bundles there, so we'll move back up until I'm just in range, then get just out of range and drop another tether. Alright, and this is one of the first underground caverns. It's not a great landing spot, but oh well, there's not a lot you can do about that. Okay, so this is normally the first enemy that you will face in this game. Now these things are called pop corals, and they explode if you get too close. If you dig them out of the terrain, they explode at a distance that is safe. And like most enemies in the game, they will drop research samples, which again can be used to increase your byte count, help you research new and better things. Ooh, I took a bit of damage there because I was too close. So you'll see the vignette on the edge of the screen is now a bit red. And occasionally they will also drop seeds, which so long as you place, you can then hold F and you can plant that seed, and after a little while it'll grow a new one. The next enemy that you will find is this one. Now this is the first real dangerous enemy. He's popped out a little cloud of gas that is now going to chase me and try and hit me. But again, to kill him, dig the ground under him until he dies. And then you can run over and he will drop a research sample. I forget what they're called. These mushrooms look pretty, but they aren't anything. They are literally just more carbon resource, more organic if you wanted it. I'm going to get rid of these here as well because they are too close and I don't like it. Also don't really like the way we came down here, so I'm going to level the terrain at this level into my little platform here. because that's a better little landing spot. That way I can walk straight off over here, for example, and other places. Ah, here we are. So now these are underground research samples. These are more like minerals. So now these will regrow, and these underground ones are worth a little bit more. So I'm going to leave a tether here so that I remember that that's an underground research sample, and I don't want to accidentally deform the terrain. There's another one over there, so I'm going to make another tether line. Ah, ran out of tethers. So now I have to make a new one, using up my power. And then my power will recharge because I'm tethered. And I now have more tether bundles. So I'm going to make a new tether over here so that I can get over to this one. This one's also important. There's another one all the way over there, so we might go all the way over. Because research is the most important thing in this game. You want as much of it as you can get, as fast as you can get it. Alright, now is this spherolite? Yes. Okay, so here's a new resource. This is spherolite. It's zinc. But it doesn't just turn into zinc automatically. You actually have to make one of the first, more important machines in the game, and that is the furnace. So, in a second we'll head back up to ground level. We'll make a furnace, and I will smelt some zinc, just to show you how it's done, how it works. We might even have a look at how much research I've got. Might even spend some research points on something that I can actually do with zinc, which is a mod for your terrain manipulator. So the terrain manipulator has a bunch of mods. Some of them are boost mods, they make you deform the terrain faster, and others define the shape. So in my case, I'm more interested in the shapes, and I'd like the wide shape because, okay, I'm going to go over here and grab this one. Remember I said it regrows? There it is, it's regrown. That was only 19, but I was at 270 something, so I should be just about there, 1000. Alright, so these tabs here, they are the sizes. So small, medium, large, and massive, giant. I don't know what the word for that one is. But terrain manipulator modules are here in the small category. So let's have a look now. Here we are. So that's the boost mod. So that'll make you drill faster. And this is the one I want. This is the wide mod. So we're going to research that. Lose all those 1000 bytes, but I think it's worth it at the moment. Narrow mod, the exact opposite. Inhibitor mod will, if you've got that on your terrain manipulator, you will harvest resources without deforming the terrain. And the alignment mod is, it's not the same as holding control. When you hold control with your terrain tool out, it aligns to where you last clicked. So for example, if I want to build up into the sky here, see, it'll start building a ramp. What the alignment mod does is it aligns, if you put it on something that is relatively flat, doesn't have to be perfectly flat, relatively flat, it will automatically build terrain or deform terrain to what is flat for this planet at that point. Now the planets are spherical, so if you were to use that continuously all the way around the planet, it would slowly create a perfectly flat piece of terrain in a full hemispherical circle. Hemispherical? Spherical. Circle, hemispherical. Anyway, whatever it is. And you'd come back to the starting point and you would be at exactly the same elevation that you started at. Now, if you put it up against something that is almost perfectly vertical, like really close to vertical, it will then make perfectly vertical surfaces according to where the center of the planet is. It'll always sort of aim towards the center of the planet. I haven't really found much of a use for it. I never use it. I use the flatten terrain tool all the time, and pretty much I only ever use that as an alignment to the surrounding terrain anyway, so yeah, you don't really need it. Now, I'm going to need another large platform, so I'm going to need more resin, and that was over here. So we're going to have to run over here, and grab more resin. Let's keep working in this hole here that we started. Let's not make a new one just yet. So I don't want to go too crazy, but, you know, as much of it as I can get right now while I'm over here is sort of the best idea. You want to be careful not to dig out from underneath your feet, because then you will fall into that hole. And there is falling damage in this game. You can fall pretty far without taking damage, but you can't fall forever without taking damage. Alright, let's unload all our resources. Now this seems really messy, just having the resources in a pile like this, and there are storage options that you can build, but I never use them because the pile, while messy looking, works perfectly well. So rather than waste resources on something that makes it look better, I would rather retain my resources and just deal with the fact that it looks messy. Right, now I think I'm going to have to research it apparently. Yep. So I know the large printer, but I don't know the smelting furnace. Now that only costs 250 bytes. I'm at 170. I've just ran out of research in the research chamber, but I don't have a new research item yet. So we're going to have to deal with that for now. I can put one of these in there in the meantime, just, you know, not to waste time. Sure, it's only going to give me 60 bytes over 5 minutes, but it's not like I'm getting anything else from the research chamber at the moment, so I might as well get something from the research chamber. 242. I only need one more. There's one all the way over there. We'll go and get these 2 or 3. 2. See? More resin here, more compound there. And that's a research item over there. Okay, this is going to be risky, but I'm going to grab this research item because I need it. Okay. So I'm too slow. I'm not going to make it home if I carry this research item. So I'm going to try and make it home on the last of my oxygen. Leave the research item behind, because otherwise I would have been too slow. I might not make it. I might die again. I'm now suffocating. Oh no, I'm going to make it. 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 I made it. So again, as you get damage from suffocating, you'll see the sort of red, I think it's called vignette, the color that creeps in from the edge of the screen. And now I'm going to run back out there and grab that research item. It is a bit of a shame that I've now put a lesser research item into the research chamber, because now I either have to cancel that and waste the research item, which I will probably do because it's not that much. Sorry. Or wait the 5 minutes for it to finish before I can put this in. Right. So we'll cancel that. Oh. Oh dear. I hadn't actually started it. I could have not done that. Now I have to cancel that. Oh, what a waste. Oh, look, I got the research item back. That's cool. Must have not gone far enough to count yet. Excellent. Alright, our next platform is done, so we will place that next to this one. Now, you might have seen that I flattened the terrain earlier, but we'll just check and make sure the terrain is nice and flat here. Now, because the world is spherical, sometimes when you flatten terrain and then flatten it again, it'll change altitude slightly, either up or down. That is to do with the sphericalness of the world. So it's never 100%, it's really hard to be 100% perfect, but don't worry about it too much. So long as it's reasonably flat, that's about all you really need. You don't even need it to be flat, but from an aesthetic point, I prefer it to be a bit flatter. So again, we connect it up with a cable, so depending on the size and shape of the table that you're using, the cable points will be at different places. But mostly they have 4, one on each side. Right, so now we've got a new large table. We have enough to research the smelting furnace, which we'll do. And then that will now turn up on our medium printer. So the printers, the small printer can print medium things, the medium printer can print large things, the large printer can print huge things. So we'll look through. There's the large printer, there's the smelting furnace. So 2 resin and 1 compound. I have 1 compound. I don't think I have 2 resin. Oh dear, I need to go and get another resin. Alright, where's the nearest resin? That's over here. Just dig into this and try and grab the last few pieces. Alright, I'm going to go down here just a little bit so I can get a bit closer. Right. So again, let's... that's not very steep at all. I'd like that to be a lot steeper. There's a little path I can now descend. Ooh, oh, and I fell. Okay, so when you are going downhill at speed, you will start to slide. It's kind of fun, it's kind of cool, it looks cool. It also goes a lot faster than just walking, so sometimes it's desirable. But falling into holes, not necessarily very desirable. So we're going to have to want to climb back out again. If you do find yourself in a hole, try and make some terrain before you run out of oxygen. It's as simple as that. Which is why the canisters are so essential and why I prefer 2 canisters, because otherwise you may not actually have enough. But you can always just deform some terrain around you to grab some more. Alright, and now we'll build the smelting furnace. So we did research that. We don't have zinc, but we do have the materials for zinc. So now the other thing I'm going to build, which I haven't done yet, is the small printer. There's not a lot of things on the small printer that you want, but there are things on the small printer that you want, especially later in the game. And again, this takes only a small slot. You can line them up next to each other. They will clip through each other when constructing things. See, that's the medium printer and it's clipping through. It tells me I need 2 compound. That doesn't actually bother the machines. They will construct in and amongst and over each other while clipping, no worries. It'll all just work. I've never seen any glitches in regard to that in the entire time I've been playing, and the game is very mature now, so if there was to be glitches, I would have found them by now, but I haven't. So one of the things you can make here is medium storage. Oh, again, I don't have enough resin. Alright, I'm going to have to go and get even more resin. Go back down the hole. So if I go slowly, I won't slide, but if I go fast, I will slide. Just gather... What do I need? I think I only need 1 more for the moment. Oh, I just broke my bridge, but that's alright. We'll just rebuild that when I need it. So we'll just get 1 more resin for the time being. Didn't entirely break it, but I came close. And like I said, so long as I have the required resources on my backpack, it will show as available to build because it will take them directly from my backpack and load it into the machine. So I'm going to build a medium storage because that's a good one to have in conjunction with the furnace. You don't have to have it, but I find it convenient. It is one of the few times where I will use the convenience of an actual storage, which helps organize your materials. And that is to do with the way the furnace converts materials and then it has to kick them off. And when it's finished its conversion, it will try to find empty slots on the table that it's on to place them in. So if you don't have enough empty slots on the table, it won't have anywhere to place them and they'll just drop on the ground, and sometimes they'll go under the table. And you see, I can't move this table at the moment. The only way for me to move this table is to actually unplug it, and then it's movable again. And that can be annoying, having to do that every time because a resource keeps falling underneath the table. So one of the good ways of dealing with that is to actually allocate some of these slots to storage. That way you've always got some spare slots, a place to place the resources when the machine is done with them. Ah, good coffee. Again, this came off a small printer, so it prints a small box that can only be unpacked on a large slot. It can be stored on a small slot, can't be unpacked on one. So I'll put this here, and that's basic storage. See, it has 4 on each side, so a total of 8 storage from what was only 2 slots. It can also be unfolded, which is purely a convenience thing. It doesn't actually make any difference to how the storage works. I prefer it in its unfolded configuration because it's easier to see what it's got stored on there. And yeah, you can store items on there. Now, items stored on here will both be auto-loaded from the results of anything that comes out of the furnace, as well as automatically load into the furnace. So if you put any resource, a raw resource, let's put it that way, onto this, and the furnace is here, it'll automatically load that resource into the furnace. So don't use this for storage of things that you don't want to refine in the furnace, because it'll automatically refine them so long as your furnace is on. Now, part of the automation update that just came out is you're supposed to be able to have more control over that, but I don't know how that works yet. I haven't experimented with it. This is the first time I've actually played the game since the automation update came out, because it was like last night at 3 a.m. or something. I was actually awake, but I didn't wait for the update to finish and then play Astroneers. I went to sleep immediately after that. Alright, so furnace. It looks like this. Now you can turn the furnace on and off with the F button. I tend to just leave it on, because if I want something, I dump it on there. Now, zinc. So this is spherolite. We're going to dump it on there. It says zinc material, so it lets you know what it's going to refine into. So compound natural resources doesn't refine into anything, so they're safe to store on here, because they will never be refined, because they don't refine into anything. I don't believe resin refines into anything either. I think those are the two resources that are just, they are what they are, they stay as they stay. Have another sip of my coffee, because my throat's getting dry. I've been talking for nigh on an hour already. "45 minutes. So this is supposed to be more of a review of this game, telling you what I like about it, what I don't like about it, but actually it's become a bit more of a tutorial on how to get started. So I don't know what I'm going to label this on the channel, but hey, that's my prerogative. This is Quivs Does Stuff. It's not Quivs Does Reviews, or Quivs does very specific things that he states beforehand. This is Quivs Does Stuff, which means I can do what I want, when I want, however I want. That's the whole point of the channel. Alright, now, I just happen to know that this is almost anything that requires a single resource will be printed from your backpack printer. So I scroll through, keep looking, Worklight, wide mod. That's what I want. Construct that. And there it is. Now it does nothing if it's not actually attached to your, terrain tool. Your terrain tool has 3 slots on it. If your backpack is full and you're harvesting resources, the resources will then actually go to your terrain tool. This one on the back isn't a slot you can use. That is where resources accumulate until you've got a full stack, and it actually makes one of these things. But you can slot resources onto your terrain tool. Terrain tool augments only work when actually slotted. You see how it's gone green onto it. You can then toggle them on and off, but I tend to leave the wide one on because it's useful. So what does the wide one do? Well, I'll be able to demonstrate right here. My terrain tool is now much bigger, and you see how it's taking more of the roof as well? So I don't have to sweep side to side to make a nice big wide descending ramp. And it also removes more of the roof, which is, you know, a little bit less claustrophobic when you're descending. Sometimes the terrain tools, when you're deforming terrain, you will knock down things like tethers. It just happens. When you're manipulating a tether, it'll show you which one it'll connect to. So you want it to be... Yeah, it's not perfect. It doesn't show you exactly, but it gives you an idea. Oh, and I've just knocked it over again. Wonderful. I'll tell you what, we'll just pick these up for now, and we'll replace them once I've actually reached the bottom. So yeah, I just want to redo this tunnel so it's not so claustrophobic. It's nice and wide. Just a preferable way to descend into the dark. And it is dark. You might have seen that I scrolled past on my backpack printer a work light. Work lights are very useful because this game can be very dark in places. Not pitch black. It doesn't do perfect dark, but it can be very dark. And so yeah, you're going to want that work light eventually, but that requires the rare resource copper, which we haven't found yet. The raw resource for the rare resource copper is malachite, which I believe is the real resource. Not actually sure. So when I made this, I made it kind of wide, but I did that by sweeping my terrain manipulator back and forth. So yeah, that was a different way of achieving sort of the same results. But you can see here, look how narrow that path is. Now look how wide it is. So yeah, that's what the terrain manipulator does, that's how it works. Now over there, in the distance, you can see that blue resource. That is the next most important resource in the game, and that'll be laterite, is the raw resource name, and that refines into aluminium. Pretty much the next tier of things you can make in this game all require aluminium. So we're going to go over there and make ourselves a path to it so we can easily return. Oops, I meant to actually make that. And here we are, that should be close enough. And now I'm going to mine this. Again, you'll see the resource accumulates on the back of the terrain tool until I've got a full one, and now I've got some laterite. Now each resource, when you accumulate enough for a full one, makes a different noise. So you could, just by the sound it makes, get used to knowing what resource you're mining. Yeah, look up, sometimes resources will be on the ceiling. But yeah, it's not important to know the sounds, it's just a nice little addition to the game. It's a, what do they call it, quality of life improvement. I believe in the very, very early access portions of this game, they all made the same sound. Alright, so that's enough aluminium for now. You don't need that many, especially this early in the game. Alright, we'll head to the surface. Alright, so what am I going to do? Because I haven't shown you that much of the game yet. I might turn this into a multiple segmented getting started tutorial rather than a let's have a look at Astroneer, because I think it's cool and I think you should play it. Alright, we'll dump off all of these. Oh yes, that we've already refined that and found out which mod. Let's see how much. We've only got 455. Now the next really good thing to get is in fact the soil centrifuge. And I'll show you what that does when we get it. We're getting close. I need more resin, so I'm going to go over here. We've pretty much exhausted this hole. No, we haven't. It does look like there is a bit more. Oops. Yeah. So if you fall onto a slope, that's the equivalent of moving fast onto a slope, and you'll start sliding, which then requires you to hit the brakes in some way, shape or form. Again, sometimes the camera will wing behind you. It can be annoying, but you know, it's just a foible of the game. The camera needs to work somehow. I don't have any problems with it. The camera works really well already. It is the one downside to the way the camera works, but I don't think, like, I can't think of a way around it. So I don't think the developers have thought of a way around it. So you just deal with it. Alright, I need even more than that. So now we'll go past to this next little bit on the hill here. Where there is some more resin, and we'll keep gathering resin. Now this one's got resin and compound sort of together. So I might sort of try and gather some compound as well, because hey, compound's useful too. Just grab a bit of everything while we're here. Oops, filled up my backpack. I don't think I can fill any more on. So yeah, you can see I've now got resources on my terrain tool. And I've run out of things to research again, so that's a bit of a shame, but oh well, there's not much we can do about that until we find a new one. So we'll build another large platform because we need one. We will build, if I have enough, another medium storage because I'm going to need one. And then we'll dump off these remaining resources that I haven't already used. Let's change this back to a tether bundle, place that on my backpack so I've got that resource if I need it, and we'll go and wander around a little bit, gather some more research samples from different places. I can see a weirdly shaped tree over in the distance, so I reckon there's going to be a research sample over there, so we're going to go over there and grab that. One of the large research samples, that is. And yes, I was right. There it is. Now, this on the ground here, these sparkly bits, that's another natural resource that comes into play later in the game, and that is ammonium. Ammonium is used mostly in the game for when you create rocket fuel, because this is Astroneers. You're not stuck on one planet. This is just the starting planet. That's why there's a landing pad. So one of the primary things that you actually want to do is move towards rocketry so you can get off this planet and find other planets with other rare resources that you don't find on this planet. All of this is available on the... Okay, I think they changed how that works now. I think the research chamber once on just works if you load something into it. Fair enough. Oh no, I built the wrong thing. I meant to build that one, so I wasted one resin. But luckily I caught it and stopped it in time. So all that did was waste a little bit of my time, really. But luckily I caught that, because that would have been annoying. Alright, so we don't have much else going on at the moment, so we'll head back downstairs. Why not? Oh no, I tell you what. Instead of heading downstairs, it'll take me a little while to turn around and climb back up. We might head upstairs a little bit. So I talked before about the work light and requiring copper. Copper is found in the mountains. So it depends what planet you're on where certain things are found, but on the starting planet, copper is located in the mountains. Okay, now I just broke my tether. There we go. So I'm going to find some snowy mountains. Are there any snowy mountains visible around me? No. That could be a problem, because I might not be able to find copper then without traveling really, really far. Now, there are vehicles in the game, but they are relatively late game things. They cost a lot. They require a lot of research points, that is. They cost a lot in components as well. Yeah, I'm not going to find copper really close to here. I'm going to have to wait until I get a vehicle to do that. Let's have a look at where the vehicles are. So vehicles, the first one that I recommend is the buggy. Now, the buggy doesn't have much space. You have to have a seat to sit on the buggy. The seat is located in this tier, I believe, the medium tier, if I can just find it. Okay, these must be some of the new automation stuff. Storage sensor, battery sensor. Won't worry about that now, because I don't know how they work. I haven't experimented with them. As part of this series, we probably will be experimenting with them, but we'll see. That's not it. Where is the seat? Ah, the rover seat. So I've already got the rover seat unlocked. So the lowest vehicle is the tractor. It doesn't require a seat, and you can't really fit anything onto it, and it has to be plugged into tables via the cable plug to recharge. But it can tow a trailer, which, as you can see, has a dual slot on it. So they can be connected, and then the tractor can actually tow that. Now, the buggy is more of an exploration vehicle. What the buggy does is it can't tow anything. It has one dual slot and two single slots. The dual slot, you have to use the rover seat to put on the buggy, and then the two single slots, I would recommend some form of power production so that the rover becomes completely independent. I believe all the vehicles automatically count as having a small oxygenator in them, but they will not provide two tethers. So you can't park a vehicle and then use your tether bundle to create a tether line and wander off into the distance. But you can just return to the vehicle to grab more oxygen, so that's where they come in useful when you have to go distance exploring. I'm going to go look at this mountain here, because maybe sometimes you get super lucky and even the shallow ones are like just tall enough for certain rare high altitude resources to spawn, but I don't think I'm going to get that lucky. There is a bit of debris here. See, so that was a rover, and there's a broken rover seat. What do we got here? More oxygen filters. So oxygen filters are like the power ones that I showed you before. They're a disposable short-term oxygen supply. They will supply me with oxygen until they run out. They have these little 4 things. As they're used, those will disappear. And yeah, so we didn't find... I can't see any mountains from here, and we didn't find any copper, malachite. But I did want to look around because I was looking for another research item, and I now found one, so that's good. We'll take that back to base, and that was already a worthwhile trip out to this little bit. Because I'm going to need one of those soon anyway. In fact, is it already done? I don't think it's already done. No, it's not already done yet. These research items, they fit on a dual slot, so if you want to put them somewhere for storage, safety, that's a convenient place to put them. Alright, another large platform. I'm going to keep extending this way, just because this is sort of like my production facility. Yeah, you see I've manipulated the terrain there, and it's caused this to bounce and move. It does that sometimes. It's not a major thing. You can just unplug the cable, realign it to where you want it, and then replug the cable. Pack this one. We might as well turn it around, because why not? Plug it back in, and that's going to be ready for when we get the soil centrifuge. So I'm going to cut it there, because that's a pretty long video already, so I might make a series out of this. So in the next video we'll be working towards getting ourselves a soil centrifuge and working towards getting off this planet for the first time. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you could always hit that like button. If you'd like to see more of my content, hit that subscribe button. Makes it nice and easy to find the channel. If you'd like to get notifications when I upload a new video, hit that bell icon. That'll send you, I believe it's an email. I don't really know. When I do it, it turns up on my mobile phone. But that's just because I'm logged in. Anyway, if you didn't like the video, hit that dislike button. But I would appreciate if you do have to hit the dislike button because you didn't like the video, that you leave me a comment, let me know what it was about the video you didn't like, so that maybe I can improve in the future. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.